Excited to be hosting Gedda this afternoon. As many of you know, Gedda is a keeper of good people. We see a lot of friends and family here, a lot of people from our Beyond Baroque community, even people that we don't quite know just yet. So we're excited to be here with you this afternoon. And as some of you might know, Gedda was always a fixture here at Beyond Baroque before the pandemic. Would always be at least at one of our shows. I think that's right, Richard. You know, um, and so today we're so excited to be hosting you and celebrating you, Getta. Um, for those who don't know, Beyond Baroque is Los Angeles's oldest literary arts center, located here in Venice, California. We support writers, and we do that in a number of ways. We do that through our reading series, through our workshops. We have a bookstore, as some of you might know. We have some gardens, um, and we uplift new writing. And I think Getta's last book might have been out about 7 years ago. And so a memoir now in 2026 is really beautiful, really remarkable. So one more time, let's just give it up for Gedda. Um, it's really a beautiful book, and I hope that you pick up a copy today. I won't say too much. The only thing I'll say is that places like this are in danger, right? We know that our NEA was taken away from us. We know that the government continues to try to take away resources and funds from the arts, and especially from the literary arts, right? So if you leave here with one thing, at least from me today, is that we really need you to keep this going. So if you're not already, please do become a member. It's an annual membership, and it allows us to continue to do what we do here in the space. At the very least, pick up Stranger's Journey. I mean, I think you have to leave with this today and get a signature from Gedda. But to help frame the story and the reading today, I do want to bring up Jim Natal, who is a Los Angeles poet and literary presenter. He is the author of 5 full-length poetry books, including Spare Room, Hellbun Variations, and Memory and Rain, as well as the chapbook Etude in the Form of a Crow. A new collection, Everything Changes, Everything is forthcoming in 2026. His work has appeared widely in journals and anthologies, and with his wife Tanya Babin, he co-founded local indie publishing house Conflux Press. Please welcome Jim and Natal.
Well, thanks to Jimmy, who's done such a great job here, and Ivan and Beyond Baroque. And thank you to all of you for being here to help celebrate Gedda Ilves in Mark the Stranger's Jewel. And my wife Tanya and I had the honor to publish their work Conflux Press. We published Gedda's last collection, Poetry as Off Flight. Another stunning book, and we were thrilled to get to her. So dear, yeah.
I used the word remarkable to describe the new memoir, but it also applies to all her poetry and prose, and though perhaps not strongly enough to Gedda herself and the arc of her life, as you'll hear later when she reads. She is a lovely dynamo and an inspiration to all who know her. Because of the international span of Gedda's life, in the memoir, you'll be amazed at how many countries she's been in. And I thought I'd read poems set in another country, in my case, France. I'm going to start with a very short piece called Rue de France. The woman in the passenger seat of the rat-trap Renault stuck at the light is sucking on her cigarette like it's a life-saving device, like she's breathing through it, like she's snorkeling in this rain, blowing smoke in a metal fishbowl with all the windows up. And now I'm going to say the most dreaded words you will ever hear at a poetry reading. I'm going to read a long poem, but it goes fast. It's titled Indelible, but it could have the alternate title Compulsive? Moi? This is Indelible. Late night at the bathroom sink, lukewarm water running, I take apart the pen, unscrew the muted tiger eye barrel, gold nib etched made in France, 18K, split down the center like a scarab's wings, slightly upraised, ready to fly. I hold the nib below the tap, let water cascade, try to wash blue ink out so I can switch to black. Water spills from the tip. Wispy blue braid streaming down the drain, smoke in a wet wind tunnel. Blue continues to pour in various dilutions, sometimes faint, almost the color of glacial lakes. Then the blue of dusk after sunset fades, first star visible. A pearl of thin ink forms at the tip and hangs anxious from the spherical point. Blue tear at the end of your nose, blue minutes running through my fingers. I think days of leisurely correspondence, hear scratchy rhythms of ghostly writing, elegant strokes on paper, when I begin to wonder where all this ink is coming from. If this empty pen is a miracle in the making, dry oil lamp that burned 8 nights, virgin apparition at a spring. Blue ink still spurts. Is this why they call it a fountain pen? And I decide to speed the process. Fill the tip section with water, then put it to my lips and blow. Blue droplets spray white porcelain, Jackson Pollock jazz notes from a tiny trumpet, and I think, oh shit, Tanya's gonna kill me. But it wipes away with one swipe of my palm, and I am flooded with a boy's relief. I fill and blow, but ink beads bleed from the nib's coattail slit in a fine line like a razor cut that will not heal. Fill and blow, checking my mouth in the mirror to make sure it isn't blue. Lips of a man drowned in an icy current. How I'd explain that away. I give up and turn off the faucet. See yet more blue peering out from under just below the nib. I wipe the point on a tissue. Blue brotches spread, bruising every section as I fold until the damp tissue resembles a tear-stained letter or a blue vest left in the rain. And I remember the crumpled piece of paper I picked up off the sidewalk in Paris along the left bank of the Seine, that wrinkles smoothed, read in French, "Some days one feels so very alone." As I stood and watched the river that wasn't blue reflect a sky that was. And I'm going to close with another very short poem. See, there's payback for listening to the long one. This is called Église, Paris. That church on Rue de Rivoli we entered to get out of the rain. Someone invisible playing an organ, high notes out of tune. Empty rows of straw-seated chairs in dimming of late afternoon. Marble floor chessboard worn low in places by puddles of grief and pain. You lit 2 thin candles and whispered, I think, our names. Thank you for listening. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce one of my favorite poets, who's also a publisher, known to insiders as poetry's Bad Bunny, Gloria Vando.
You took the words out of my mouth. Aw. Thank you. And thank you, Gedda, for inviting me. And thank you, Jim, for your lovely introduction. Today's my mother's birthday, and she died at 99. And so I'd like to read a poem about her. My mother, cunning yet innocent. My mother, cunning yet innocent, grabbing the new moon by its promise and whistling through the suave sky for an easy escape to where stardom should have been, but never was. My mother split like a seasoned log, ready for burning, yet whole and immutable as bronze, her slender arms unbendable, her teeth clenched behind an ardent Rita Hayworth smile. Still ill-defined, she slips away, gathering herself up into the thinnest sliver of equivocation, falling between folds of supple logic until she's almost out of earshot. But I'm obsessed with the mystery. I shout after her, wait, wait. The air is heavy with gardenias and sweet tobacco. Smoke rings from her lips drift out of sight like elliptic vows, while I strain to capture them on my tiny wrists and fingers, not knowing then, no, not yet knowing, trusting her to be mine forever. And because I read about my mother, I have to read about my father. And because of Bad Bunny, it's got to do with Puerto Rico. Okay, at my father's funeral. My father, a freethinker who insisted I be reared like him, lies in his open casket, the blood of Jesus dripping on its clean white shirt. El grito de Lares pinned to one lapel, la bandera to the other. And instead of boleros or plenas permeating the heavy incense of the chapel, a rosario of Padre Nuestros and Ave Marias churned the air. I study his hands, try to stroke away the spots that will bury themselves into my skin like spiders, brown recluses that will never let go. Be careful, his doctor warned me. Your father died of skin cancer. But at 93, I'd say he's entitled to go as he pleases. And the ceremony that accompanies his departure is not my doing. I have no rights here. My half-sister removes the pins from my father's lapels and presses them into my hand like an omen. You're the firstborn, she says. We decided you should have them. I pin them on my blouse. At the cemetery, an older woman with white hair stands on the sidelines, flanked by men in gray suits. Lolita Lebron, my sister whispers. And it is 1954. I am in Holland, studying literature and art when the news comes over the wires and students at school start asking me whether I'm ashamed of being Puerto Riqueña. And I, in turn, ask them whether they feel shame for Hiroshima or Dresden or Dachau. Because I do, and they can't understand that it all has to do with me and with them. And here's Lolita Lebron, patriot or terrorist. Take your pick. Though she never fired a shot. I didn't come to kill, she said. I came to die. Ready to give her life for el gran ideal, the great ideal. Her sole aim to publicize the plight of a besieged island. They stormed the spectators' gallery, she and 3 men, waving German Lugers and their outlawed flag, and shouting freedom for Puerto Rico, when one of the men went berserk and began shooting into the crowded floor of the house. Congressmen diving for cover, under desks, behind chairs, 5 hit, bleeding, visitors screaming for help. It was a suicide mission. Born in Lares, she felt it was her destiny. But how could she have known the sacrifice would be her children, her son murdered during the trial, her daughter killed in an accident, or so they said, and she in and out of solitary confinement for 35 years, unable to eat or sleep, unable to breathe, her hair turning white overnight, like her heart, a dead weight. The roster at the gravesite reads like a who's who of better days. The leaders old and infirm come. My sister tapes their tributes. They recite my father's poems. They sing songs I didn't know he wrote. When they sing La Borinqueña, the one song I do know, my words are all wrong. This is a new version. And my anthem, my sweet anthem, is no longer a danza, but a marching song. Your father was a great man, they tell me. A great man. I look cautiously around me and spot them. 1, 2, maybe 3 dark-suited men in the distance, blending into the trees, documenting our sorrow with hidden cameras and tape recorders. No one pays attention to them. The FBI is as much a part of their lives as the shadows their bodies cast across my father's grave. I want to cry out that I am innocent, that I have nothing to do with violence. I'm there because we share a name, a face. But when I look at my sisters, I see my fate. The next morning, my half-brother waits at the airport. He sees Papi's slogans like stigmata bleeding on my lapels. Ten cuidado, be careful, he says. They might not let you out. We embrace, and I see our shadows on the sidewalk merge. When I kiss him, it is as if I were kissing myself goodbye. Okay. Mariano, you're next. And Mariano is a marvelous, wonderful poet from Spain, and I love him.
That was wonderful, the bleeding, the lapel, anyway. Hi, Gedda. Thank you very much for your invitation to be part of this party and this reading. Last October, Gedda showed me the cover of the book, this cover, and where she is as a young girl. So because of that, I selected 3 poems that are based on my own childhood. Anatomy and color pencils. In the school library, I copy illustrations of science book with tissue paper. You are not allowed to take these books home, but you can copy the illustrations if you are careful. I copy illustrations of insects most of all. First, I trace the perimeter. Insects have segmented bodies, jointed legs, and external skeletons. Then I trace the head, thorax, and abdomen, even the antennae and the coiled proboscis. Butterflies have thin antennae with club-shaped tips. Moths have comb-like antennae, feathery. It's difficult to draw the inner organs, brain, heart, stomach. The average lifespan of a butterfly is usually 1 month. Some small butterflies only live 1 week. I transfer the illustrations to my notebooks, bring them home into my room, each body labeled, organized, immutable. Monarch butterflies have a lifespan of about 9 months. So many times in secret, I try to label my own body, to be my own insect, my own entomologist. And this is the discovery of red. In these poems, I use language borrowed from science. Sometimes I have a little trouble pronouncing the borrowed language. But I'll do my best today. The discovery of red. A single drop of blood static on the tip of my index finger. Our blood is red because of the hem groups in hemoglobin. I am wearing my kindergarten uniform, gray with white buttons. My mother did not take me to school today. I am sick, low fever, and it's raining. A ruthless rain, horse hooves on the roof, pebbles, small bullets against the window panes. Hemoglobin is made up of 4 protein chains. I am playing. I am a mechanic fixing toy trucks with a plastic screwdriver and a needle stolen from my mother's sewing kit. Boys don't play with needles, she always says. This is the first time I see my own blood. I have seen the blood of animals before when killed, chickens, rabbits, pigs. This is my own blood, my own pain. Each protein chain binds to an additional ring-shaped chemical structure called hem. The pain ends all pretense. I'm not a mechanic. I end where my body ends. I cry because of the blood and the loud rain. At hem's center sits an iron molecule. The iron makes hem look red-brown. Come here, my mother says. It's nothing. I walk with my finger outstretched like a candle or a lighthouse. The iron in hemoglobin brings oxygen to the lungs as we inhale. Don't cry. Don't worry. Your soul will not leave you, my mother says. This makes me cry even more. The fear of my soul leaving my body through the tip of my finger. When the oxygen is released, it is replaced by carbon dioxide. My mother sucks my finger. Her cheekbones sharpen. She keeps my finger in her mouth. When carbon dioxide binds to hemoglobin, the color changes from bright red to dark red with a hint of purple. The finger is wet now, cleaned, healed. That is, she says. My finger throbs. Why is my heart in my finger? I ask. Your heart is not in your finger. Your heart is in your chest, my mother says. It doesn't jump around like a monkey. My mother stops the bleeding. I stop crying. But she cannot stop the horses still galloping on the roof. And I'm going to close with another childhood memory. This is from my adolescence, early adolescence. And the only thing you need to know about the poem is a reference to Franco. He ruled as a dictator in Spain until 1975. And the title is My Sister Holds My Hand in the Dark. It's not really a theater. It's a bar where young people gather. They put a projector on the counter in front of the tap. They turn the lights off. It's 1976, I am 12, my sister's 22, Franco just died. She takes me to see foreign films on Fridays. Her boyfriend buys me soda, popcorn. He smokes, everybody smokes. He has long hair, wears a braided leather bracelet, silver and turquoise beads. This is one of those European movies, my sister tells me, not a word to mother, do you understand? This is the beginning of secrets. European sounds dark, disturbing, and you know that someone naked may pop up on the screen at any time. Not sure if you should bring your brother to these movies, the boyfriend says. I am here for the popcorn, I say. You know, he's not like the other kids, my sister says. This is the beginning of labeling. My sister holds my hand in some scenes. Shards of glass in cries and whispers, the rape into women when Charlotte Rampling dances in the night porter. I want to be like them, I tell my sister when we leave. To be like who, she asks. Like the people in the movies, I say. This is the beginning. of pretending. Thank you. So, enough.
What's the name of the book?
The book is called The Weight of Sound, and it's also available at the bookstore. So now a few words about Gedda. Everybody knows her, but I have prepared just a little paragraph. So Gedda Ilves has published 5 books of poetry: Grains of Life, A View from Within, Interval, At the Threshold, and in 2019, Conflux Press published A Butterfly to a River, New and Selected Poems. As Gloria Vando says, Gedda's work explores a life rooted in the arts, literature, nature, imbued with a keen ethical awareness. Gedda also has a great sense of humor. And if all this literary production was not enough, Gedda presents today her book of memoirs, A Stranger's Journey, also published by Conflux Press. Many of you know that Gedda was born in the city of Harbin, North China, of Russian parents, that she lived in Shanghai during World War II and came to Los Angeles via Brazil, why not, in 1951. So yes, it is a full, adventurous life, but we don't feel strangers in your literature. We feel invited, uplifted, inspired. We celebrate your new book, and we celebrate you, Gedda Ilves.
Thank you, Jim, Gloria, and Mariano. I hope you all got aesthetic experience by listening to their wonderful poems. I thank all of you. Thank you. I thank all of you for coming. Paul Valery said, poetry is dancing, prose is walking. And we're going to do both of it. So I will then open this book. I had a poem which I thought would be serving as a good epigraph for the book. Now, when you get to my age, you're beginning to think that there's something wrong with your eyesight. Actually, it isn't. It's the age. Anyway, this is the epigraph. My time is near applying mathematics, but it's unpoetic to live by logic when my senses vibrantly react to dusks and dawns, the coolness of the shades, the warmth of summer sun, the song of birds, the multiplicity of colors. Experience of ecstasy beholding nature's beauty. I thank thee, life, for all the friendships, all the loves, for lonely days and lonely evenings, the inner tremor of fermenting poems, for all of this and more. I thank thee, life, that you were there, my own. Now I'm going to read one of the chapters. Can you hear me? Okay. World War II was over. There was jubilation in the air and on the streets of Shanghai. Japan's surrender was signed on September 2, 1945. On October 14, 1945, a division of the United States Air Force entered Shanghai. Their base was at Jiangwan Airfield. I was employed as a passenger agent at the airport where we transported the Chinese top echelon from Shanghai to Taiwan. That's ex-Formosa. One of our two pilots, Captain S, asked me one day whether I would like to go to Taiwan with the transport flight the following week. I thought he was joking and quickly answered, "Of course." Later in the day, Captain S came to my desk and told me he thought he could arrange it, but I should not broadcast it. In Taipei, the capital of Taiwan, where our planes landed, a small detachment of American airmen were stationed at a Japanese hotel, where our crews usually stayed overnight, returning the next day. The offer was so tempting that I told Captain S, "I'll ask my husband and will give you the answer tomorrow." When I came home from work, I told my husband about the offer and my chance to see the island, which was now the seat of nationalist China under Chiang Kai-shek. It was also famous for the fruit grown there for export. My husband knew my zest for adventure, and that this would be my very first flight. He also knew that I'd be under the protection of the American military personnel. Neither of us thought that I would actually be the equivalent of a stowaway. He also didn't know that several weeks earlier, one of our planes on that route hit stormy weather and crashed into a mountain. He simply wanted the exact schedule of the flights. I promised it to him, having the consent for my travel. Our transfer planes were the C-47s. They were small carriers with a 28-seat capacity. Between the cockpit and the passengers and across from the entrance to the plane was a space for the flight clerk and his equipment, which was covered by a very heavy drape from the ceiling to the floor. This was the space I had to stay in unobtrusively until the plane was in the air. Then I could talk to the pilot, Captain S, his co-pilot, Brad, or the flight clerk, Willie. Halfway through the flight, with another hour to go, the weather abruptly changed. Our plane was enveloped in dark gray clouds, the windows covered with rain, and we felt occasional bumps in the air. There was no worry or concern written on the faces of Captain S or Brad. Willie was busy talking on the radio. However, the passengers were obviously frightened. They were given the sign to put their seat belts on, and they talked very loudly among themselves. Willie beckoned me to go into the cubicle, drew the drape tightly, and went to the main cabin. He must have cowed the frightened men somewhat as the loud talking ended. Captain S. called me and with a broad smile asked, "What do you say? Shall we make it or return?" Without hesitation, I said, "Of course you can make it." And we did. In Taipei, the weather was balmy. We landed safely. Stairs were rolled up to the plane. Chinese military passengers, now with broad smiles, thanked our crew and praised them. Willie was in the front of the cubicle. I was behind. Captain S. and Brad left the plane. In his jeep, the commanding officer of the Taiwan American base was talking to Captain S. and Brad. Willie showed me how to open the door of the plane, told me what was going on, and hoped that the commanding officer would leave soon. He went down the stairs, and I heard the stairs rolled away. I was about to open the door of the plane when I heard the noise of vehicles driving on the tarmac below. In another 10 or 15 minutes, I heard my name called. I opened the plane door and saw our crew in an open jeep below. They were looking up at me, and Captain S. yelled, "Jump! We'll catch you." As I banged the plane door shut and jumped, I landed into the outstretched arms and onto the floor of the back seat of the jeep. They started telling me that the commanding officer returned twice, and that was the reason for the delay and manner of my descent. At the same moment, Willie saw the commanding officer's jeep drive back towards us. Down I went again, and Brad and Willie put their legs over me. It was the first and the last time that we heard Captain S. swear. It was about the time all of us saw the commanding officer again. Never. All went smoothly. I was invisible, and we were now heading for the hotel for some chow. The mess room in the hotel was large and filled with local airmen. The tables were low, and we sat on the tatami mats. Pretty Japanese girls served the food and flirted with the young men. They all were surprised to see a young Caucasian female and showered me with questions. My crew, not wanting the rumors to spread, told everyone that I had come for a very short visit. The food was good, some Japanese, some Chinese. The desserts were great. After dinner, Captain S., Brad, and I went for a walk. Willie met an old friend from home and stayed behind. Taipei buildings were destroyed in residential area. The dazzling bougainvilleas were magnificent. Brad told me I would see a lot of those plants in the United States when we got there, especially in California, when I told him we planned to settle. Back in the hotel, Captain said, "See you at breakfast at 6 a.m. A Japanese servant girl led me to my room in the dim light. I was trying to figure out how I would find my way back on my own. There were no numbers, none were the regular doors. All were panels that slid back and forth to open or close. My room was a nice size with tatami mats on the floor. There was a large window on the opposite wall and a long table with a beautiful flower arrangements. On the right side wall was a closet, and in the middle of the floor was a blanket over a sheet and pillow. I asked the girl about the bathroom. Her answer was a blank expression. After she realized what I was asking for, she said, "Toilet?" I nodded. She went down the hall with me in tow. After a while, I heard running water. We turned the corner, and there was a row of sinks with a few people washing. Nearby were toilet stalls. I used the facility, washed as much as I could. The towels were clean, and then proceeded to go back to my room. I turned the corner, but where was my room? The servant girl was not in sight. I counted several doors and tried one. There was a couple inside, and I quickly retreated. After trying a few more doors, I finally found the room that had my coat in the closet as I left it there. In the morning, it was a bit easier to navigate, but getting to the mess room was a bit of an adventure. I met a tall Japanese man in the hall that thought that I was some kind of Caucasian geisha. After meeting my crew and having breakfast, we drove to the airport. On the way, we stopped at the market, and I bought a large basket of oranges to take home. When we brought it inside the plane, the orange aroma filled the air from the cockpit to the tail. I'll never forget how wonderful those oranges from Taiwan were. Okay. Now, what I did is I thought I'll read a bit of the epilogue, and I tried to kind of cut it a little bit. So it's an abbreviated epilogue. Okay. On January 10, 1951, we docked at Wilmington. Our friends and sponsors, Nina and Jack, met us at the pier and drove us to their home in West LA. We had a pleasant way with them for a couple of months. During that time, my husband found his first job at an architectural firm. I got in touch with Mrs. B, whom I knew from Shanghai, and who had property in Westwood Village near UCLA. Mrs. B happened to have a vacant one-bedroom apartment on the second floor of her building, which we rented right away. Our son Daniel was born on June 2, 1951. Misha was jubilant and adored his son. In the apartment next to us lived an elderly widow, Mrs. Heine. When I would leave Danny in the crib in the courtyard, she loved to watch over them. We became friends. Mrs. Heine encouraged us to buy a house. She offered a loan of $1,000. It was a very tempting offer. We found a house in West Los Angeles on Bentley Avenue on the corner of Charnock. The owner sold it to us for $12,000. Yeah, we repaid Mrs. Heine in less than a year. In 1957, Los Angeles City decided to build a public school on that block. We were paid off and had enough for a down payment, $5,000. On another house we purchased in West Los Angeles for $20,000. I have lived there ever since. Danny was 6 years old when my husband had his first heart attack. There was no knowledge then of bypass surgeries. I lost my husband in his third and fatal heart attack on December 1959. I did not want to live but had the responsibility of raising our son. That saved me. Dan graduated Loyola High School with honors and chose USC from two other scholarship offered him. During our life together, we developed a close friendship. The difficult part for me was when he wanted to move in with a couple of his USC friends, and I knew I had to approve his decision. At this time, I was taking evening classes for adults in Beverly Hills High School. I took classes in literature and creative writing. I had also been teaching the history of Russia at the church parish school every Saturday, staged children plays there, and became principal of that small school. While my passion remained reading, I found my love in poetry and have published 5 books of poems, the last being As Butterfly to a River, which was mentioned here. The first 4 books are catalogued in our Los Angeles Central Library. I also attended numerous poetry workshops, poetry readings, and discussions. Okay. As I have been immersed in the world of poetry, I think poets are the expression of the inner self's feelings and thoughts. And as in poems, human beings should try to lead authentic lives. Our species on Earth is called Homo sapiens, and we are a social group. And I strictly believe in sharing our experiences and thoughts. An old adage tells me that by sharing your happiness, it multiplies. By sharing your sadness, it minimizes it. Adages, proverbs, or even some cliches spell for us the truth which lives forever. They can be applied universally. As Sir Francis Bacon said, the genius, wit, and spirit of a nation are discovered in its proverbs. During my long years of life, I came to the conclusion that it takes only one person to wreak havoc on a country, even the whole world. It was Lenin, Stalin, Hitler, Mussolini, Putin from 17 to the present day. These men and their cohorts unleashed evil into the world like black mambas that release their deadly venom when they die.
Okay.
I feel extremely lucky to live in a country where freedom is one of its fundamental principles. Russian philosopher Nikolai Berdyaev said that freedom is self-responsibility. It is our choice to turn left or right, to choose between good or evil. To have freedom is to be responsible for our choices. Although my husband and I chose America and our son is in of this country, I still wonder, where do I belong? Being born in China doesn't make me a Chinese. I have been raised on old Russian culture. I've only been in that country twice as a tourist. After the 1917 revolution, Russia became the USSR, a country ruled by dictators with a totalitarian regime. Am I a cosmopolitan or a refugee? I also prefer to think that God created man in his own image, Genesis 1:17, and that every individual is endowed with a divine particle that may be our soul. I always admired my close friend Tanya Jiriski, who had unshakable faith. I believe that kind of shape gives one a solid hook on which to hang a worn out head on so that it never slips down. The author of Alice in Wonderworld, Lewis Carroll, said that in life all that is really worth doing is what we do for others. I fully subscribe to this, and my own motto is expressed in Emily Dickinson's poem, "If I can stop one heart from breaking, I shall not live in vain. If I can ease one life from aching, or cool one pain, or help one fated robin unto his nest again, I shall not live in vain." Thank you very much.